Prepare IAS coaching. It is one of the best coaching institutes for IAS and PCS preparation and coaching in Lucknow. This is the address and this is the contact number. You can contact them for getting further guidance for your preparation. So, hello everyone. In this video, we'll do the daily current affairs analysis of 19th October 2021. So the first topic which we will discuss is about the World Food Day. It is from GS paper 2 and topic is poverty related issues. So why it is in the news? The World Food Day is celebrated annually on October 16 to commemorate the founding date of the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization in 1945. The theme for this year's World Food Day is Our Actions are our better production, a better future, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Background: World Food Day was established in November 1979 as suggested by former Hungarian Minister of Agriculture and Food Dr. Paul Romani. It gradually became a way of raising awareness about hunger, malnutrition, sustainability, and food production. About FAO, it is a special United Nations organization that is spearheading international efforts to combat hunger. Headquarters are located in Rome, Italy. Formed on 16 October 1945, FAO mission. Their mission is to achieve food security for all and to ensure that people always have access to adequate quality food to live an active and healthy life. Important reports and programs of FAO: World Report on Food Problems. Every 2 years, FAO publishes the state of the world's forests. FAO and the World Health Organization formed the Codex Alimentarius Commission in 1961 to improve dietary standards, guidelines, and documentation. In 1996, FAO organized the World Food Summit. The summit concluded with the signing of the Rome Declaration, which set out the goal of reducing the number of homeless people by 2015. In 1997, FAO launched Telefood, a concert campaign, sporting events, and other energy-intensive activities, celebrities, and concerned citizens to help fight hunger. The FAO Goodwill Ambassadors Program was established in 1999. The ultimate goal of this program is to attract the public and the media to the unpredictable situation in which an estimated 1 billion people continue to suffer from the chronic hunger and malnutrition in an unprecedented period of plenty. In 2004, the food guidelines were adopted. FAO created the International Plant Protection Convention or IPCC in 1952. The FAO is included in the International Agreement on Crops for Food and Agricultural Plants, also known as the Planting Agreement, Seed Agreement or ITPG-RFA, and came into effect on 29 June 2004. The Global Agricultural Heritage Partnership (GIAHS) program was considered in 2002 during the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, South Africa. Prelims hot-link topics are about the FAO, establishment and objectives, important reports and programs of the FAO that are very important. The source of this news is this article from the Times of India website. You can read that for better understanding about the topic. Next is, what is the Kunming Declaration on Biodiversity Conservation? It is from GS paper 2, it is from GS paper 3, and topic is conservation related issues. So why it is in news? The Kunming Declaration was adopted by more than 100 countries at the 15th annual COP summit of the parties to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity (UNCBD). COP15 theme: Environmental Development: Building a Shared Future for Life on Earth. About the Kunming Declaration, it urges agencies to adopt to the most common biodiversity protection in decision making and recognize the importance of conservation in protecting human health. In recognition of this, nations have pledged to support the development, adoption, and implementation of an effective post-2020 program, the Cartagena Protocol on Capacity Building. Signatory countries must ensure that disaster recovery programs contribute to the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity to promote sustainable and inclusive development. The proclamation expects signatory countries to harmonize biodiversity programs with the three 30-year UN programs in sustainable development, ecosystem restoration, and ocean science for sustainable development. About the Convention on Biological Diversity 1992. The Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD) came into force on 29 December 1993. It has three main objectives: biodiversity conservation, sustainable use of biodiversity components, and next is the equitable distribution of benefits from the use of genetic resources. The agreement was initiated on 5 June 1992 at the United Nations Environment and Development Conference Rio Earth Summit of 1992. This agreement is a legally binding agreement approved by 180 countries. So this can be a potential statement in prelims, okay, that the CBD is a legally binding agreement which is approved by 180 countries. So the CBD Secretariat is based in Montreal, Canada, and operates under the auspices of the United Nations Environment Programme (UNEP). The areas of agreement are conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of biological resources, and equitable sharing of the benefits in order to ensure their sustainable use. The conference came into effect in 1993. It provides non-binding guidelines on various aspects relating to biodiversity conservation, intellectual property rights, protection of security, and the rights of indigenous people. What is the 30 by 30 target? The Kunming Declaration sets out the target of 30 by 30, which is a key proposal discussed in the COP15, which will be able to pay for 30% of the land and sea land protected by 2030. Apart from this, there is also a plan to halve the use of chemicals in agriculture and to eliminate the generation of waste in the plastic wastage sector. Source of this news is this article on the sdg.iisd.org website. You can read this to get better understanding about the topic. Next is about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. It is from GS paper 1 and the topic is modern Indian history. So why it is in the news? Recently marked the 20th anniversary of Sir 200th anniversary of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's birthday. Who was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan? He was born on October 17, 1817. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was a teacher, politician, social reformer, etc. He was the founder of the Aligarh Muslim University. Why is the controversy? Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is often criticized as the father of the two-nation faith, which led to the formation of two separate nations, namely India and Pakistan. Some historians believe that the division of Hinduism and Islam in India was the result of a two-state solution to the Syrian ideology. Did the concept of two nations prevail during his time? Nationalism as a conscious factor was a feature of the 20th century Europe also, from where it got moved into India. Prominent historian Anil Sale aptly stated that in Sir Syed's day there were no two nations, not even one nation, there was no nation at all. Until 1898, Sir Syed died. When Sir Syed died for the last time, there was no such thing as an Indian nation, nor did the founding fathers of the Indian National Congress say so. Sir Octavian Hume, the founder of the INC, spoke of civil society, not the nation. Sir Syed's national concept. Sir Syed's concept of the nation was intertwined with that of the world. Sir Syed believed in a multicultural society in which all cultural communities should have the right to equality under the state. Reason for founding of the Aligarh Muslim University. The main reason for the establishment of this institution was the tragic reliance of the Muslims. Their religious fervor did not allow them to access the educational institutions offered at public schools and colleges. Therefore, special arrangements were needed for their education. So prelims hotline topics are about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, his contributions to nationalism, contributions to the education sector, and also about the concept of two nations. The source of this news is this article from The Hindu. You can read this to get a better understanding about the topic. Next is the Urban Employment Scheme launched in Tamil Nadu. It is from GS Paper 2 and topic is policies and initiatives for the vulnerable sections of the society. So why it is in the news? The government of Tamil Nadu has issued directives to implement the urban employment system in the government in an effort. The program aims to provide livelihoods and social security by increasing employment opportunities and by creating and maintaining public property. About the program, this is an urban employment scheme that will be used by the government of Tamil Nadu in line with the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Scheme (MG Narega). It mainly aims to improve the lives of the urban poor. Need for Unlike other states of India, the urban population in Tamil Nadu is growing rapidly and will reach 60% of the total population by 2036. A total of 4 crore people now live in urban areas, accounting for 53% of the total population of the state of Tamil Nadu. However, many of them lost their jobs as a result of the COVID-19 epidemic. Implementation of the scheme and its key features. Under this scheme, local workers will be used to perform activities such as desilting of water bodies and maintenance of community parks and other facilities. 50% of a person's total days under this plan will be reserved for women. Women and men would be paid the same wage for the same unskilled and skilled labor. The Tamil Nadu Urban Employment Scheme is based on the recommendations made by a committee headed by the former Reserve Bank of India Governor C. Rangarajan. About MG Narega, the program was launched in 2005 as a social initiative that affirms the right to work. A key idea of this social labor law is that the local government will have to formally provide at least 100 days of employment to workers in rural India to improve their quality of life. Key objectives: the generation of paid domestic work of not less than 100 days for each volunteer worker in unskilled labor sector, ensuring social inclusion by strengthening the livelihood of the rural poor, construction of durable material in rural areas such as springs, lakes, roads and canals, reduce urban migration from rural areas, create rural infrastructure using unused rural workers. The following are the eligibility criteria to receive benefits under the MG-Narega program. One must be an Indian citizen to claim the benefits of MG-Narega. Job seeker has completed the age of 18 years at the time of application. The applicant must be a part of a local family. Example, the application must be made by a local Gram Panchayat. Applicants must volunteer for unskilled jobs. Scheme implementation. Within 15 days of application or from the date of application, the remuneration will be paid to the applicant. The right to receive an unemployment benefit in the event of employment not being granted within 15 days of application or from the date on which the employee is required. Public audit of MG Narega's activities is mandatory, which provides for accountability and transparency. Gram Sabha is the main forum for wage seekers to raise their voices and make demands. It is the Gram Sabha and Gram Panchayat that approves the workshops under the MG Narega and fixes their priorities. Prelims hotline topics under MG Narega. What are the roles of Gram Sabha, Gram Panchayat, states, State Food Commission, Center, etc.? What are the work cards and are issued by whom? Who sets up the State Employment Equity Fund? What is a pay job? Who does the social research? Source of this news is this article from the Indian Express. You can read that. Next is about the anticipatory bail. It is from GS paper 2 and topic is constitutional provisions. So why it is in the news? The Supreme Court held that a superior court could set aside the expected bail order if there was sufficient evidence to suggest that matters such as the size and role of the defendants in the case were not considered by the lower court. about the anticipatory bail. The granting of the anticipatory bail under Section 438 was introduced when the CRPC was amended in 1973. Contrary to the usual bail granted to an arrested person on pending bail or on the anticipatory bail, a person is ordered to be released on bail even before arrest under the anticipatory bail. So the time frame, High Court, the Supreme Court, in the case of Sushila Agarwal versus the State of and City of Delhi 2020, has issued a landmark decision declaring that no time limit may be set for the expected bail application and it may continue until the end of the case. It is issued only by the Sessions Court and the High Court. Significance: the reason for the inclusion of Section 438 in the Act was the adoption by Parliament of the fundamental principle of human liberty in a free and democratic country. Parliament wishes to promote respect for personal freedom and allow for a higher position in the basic law of criminal justice so that everyone is considered innocent until proven guilty. Recent observations made by the Supreme Court on its use. High courts and Supreme Courts are empowered to grant the accused the anticipatory bail due to the mandate that the Constitution places on the right to freedom guaranteed under Article 21. The granting or refusal of an application under the CRPC directly affects the right to life and liberty of the individual. Therefore, the provision needs to be read openly and considered in its beneficial nature. Courts should not read about the restrictions that the legislature did not give explicitly. In doing so, the Supreme Court may exercise its jurisdiction under Article 142 of the Constitution to pass that order. The need for such protection. The respondent, without being a suspect, may also be the primary caregiver or sole breadwinner. His imprisonment could leave his loved ones in a state of famine and neglect. In the 1980 case of Gurbaksh Singh Sidhya versus State of Punjab, a five-judge panel of the Supreme Court, headed by the Chief Justice Bai V. Chandrachud, ruled that 438(1) should be interpreted in accordance with Article 21 of the Constitution, protection of health and personal freedom. So the prelims hot link topics are various rights under Article 21, what is bail, what is anticipatory bail, conditional grant terms, time limit for anticipatory bail. The source of this news is this article from the Live Law website. You can read that. So next is what is exercise Cambrian Patrol. It is a prelim specific topic. So the Indian Army team won a gold medal at the exercise Cambrian Patrol organized in Brecon, Wales, UK. The exercise Cambrian Patrol has been called the military recruitment Olympics among the world's soldiers. Organized by the UK Army, it is considered the ultimate test of human endurance and team spirit. So the source of this article is this news item is this article published on the PIB website. So you can refer this. Next is about the DLX1 protein. It's a film specific topic. So researchers have found that the genetic code DLX1 plays a key role in the growth of the jaw bone and the interneuron in the brain plays a vital role in the growth and development of prostate cancer. So the source of this DLX1 protein news item is this article published on the Hindu website. You can read that to get a better understanding about the topic, and it can also be a potential question in prelims. That UPSC can frame a question like the DLX1 protein recently seen in the news is related or is used to treat which of the following diseases, and the options can be as tuberculosis, dengue, prostate cancer, or HIV also, AIDS, or any such disease for that matter. The answer would be the prostate cancer. The DLX1 protein is used to treat prostate cancer. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching the analysis video. Have a nice day.